The Schwambs came from Undenheim in Germany. There were 7 brothers, one of whom stayed behind in Germany, and 6 came to the United States. They came in the 1830s, 40s, and 50s, and this was a period of German immigration to the United States. Boston had its share of German immigrants and its own German neighborhoods, and so did Arlington. In a factory like this, German would have been spoken for the first 10 to 15 years of its existence.
It was the end of the Napoleonic Wars, and even at the end of the 1700s, there was a huge overpopulation birth, so that the lands that were around where they were in the little towns south of Mainz, which was the main bishopric of Germany, were overpopulated. And we had 10 children that came from 1815 to 1835. They made their headquarters here in Arlington, where they had a brook that had a very steep slope. By the 1870s, the Schwambs had 3 small private mills in this town.
Of the 6 brothers who came to the United States, the 3 who most concern us are Charles Schwamb, who owned this building and made picture frames, Theodore Schwamb, who made piano cases and owned a factory down the brook a bit, and Jacob Schwamb, who owned another factory that made piano cases and other types of cabinetry work a bit further down the brook still. So there were 3 Schwamb factories in Arlington. And the Schwambs all took part in civic life here. They were sometimes elected to town offices. Charles Schwamb ran this place through much of the 19th century. His son joined him in leadership here in the 1870s. His son was Carl William Schwamb. And Carl William, despite having tuberculosis, managed to run the factory up until the early 1900s. And at that point, in 1904, his sons Clinton and Louis Schwamb took over the factory. It was in 1969 that Elmer Schwamb, the 4th generation owner, finally closed the business and sold the property.
In 1969, when Patricia Fitzmaurice was an associate member of the Conservation Commission, the interest was in the state of the Millbrook, and it was on one of her trips up the Millbrook Valley that she happened upon a factory, because that's what the Schwamb Mill was, in decline. She had tremendous vision. She saw beyond the fact that it was a factory in decline, but rather that it was an exciting place of creation, and that it didn't have to be the end of the Schwamb manufactory. It could, in fact, live another day, live another century or more as a living, working museum. But in order to make that happen, she alone and her vision could not accomplish this. She had to be able to persuade the community. And in 1969 and 1970 in Arlington, that was not such an easy task. It was a tar paper covered building, astride a number of other working facilities, and there was no good concept of what a working museum could be. So Patricia had to capture the imagination and then capture the attention and the financial support that would be necessary to acquire the mill and to really keep it on its physical feet, and at the same time keep it going all the time, never ceasing the manufacturing of frames, although on a specialized scale, repurposing many of the spaces in the mill to help support it and help to draw people to the mill. So turning the Schwamb Mill into an art center where craftspeople could have their studios and where people could come for classes was one of the ways in which she was able to get that lift that the campus of the mill, if you will, needed in order to transform itself again and again as times changed, all the while maintaining its success as one of the best preserved Victorian industrial interiors in the United States. Those were Pat's words. They're now my words. I think they're as true today as ever.
Education has always been very important at the Schwamb Mill. The original owners, Clinton and his son Elmer, were very interested in making sure the children and the Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts were able to come here and learn about the mill itself, the making of frames. So then when Patricia took over the mill and created the museum, she actually established a Center for the Art in Arlington, where she had many crafters working all over the building in different spaces. They would be working on their own crafts, and then they would also be teaching classes in the evenings and the weekends. During the summer, they had classes, as well as they had classes for educators in the town who would come and learn about the mill and about different crafts. Current exhibits that we have, we've decided that there is a special need for the children that come to have their own room, a space by themselves, so that they can learn about the exhibit on their own level and also do hands-on activities that are related to the exhibit. We also have group classes that happen here, or group activities such as storytelling or arts and crafts, or different activities during the different seasons.
For the past 3 years, we've been offering an Oktoberfest event, which celebrates the Schwamb family's German heritage. It's also a wonderful excuse to have beer under a tent, as well as 2 live bands, children's activities. Last year we did a silent art auction, and it's a 4-hour afternoon event, which was so well attended last year that we had over 1,100 people.